Hey everyone, I'm Gonzo,
And I'm Mark.
and today we're going to talk about that awkward time when you're not playing D&D. How do you fill that gap? And we're going to give you some tips on that.
All right, so we have for you today 5 things that DMs and players alike can do in that downtime when they aren't playing D&D.
That's right. So it's always fun to get together to hang around the table and play the game and whatever, but there's so much time in between. Sometimes you can go, even if you have a scheduled weekly session or something, even those don't come into play every once in a while with everyone's busy schedule. So you could have week or 2 weeks or even longer sometimes between playing the game. And I think we wanted to take some time to talk about what are some things you could be doing, whether you're a player or a dungeon master, to fill that time. So do you want to talk about dungeon master stuff?
Yeah, so let's talk about dungeon masters. Well, dungeon masters have a lot they can do. Obviously, the preparation of preparing for a game, there's a lot there. But the first thing I would say is there's all the nuts and bolts of actually running the game that you could work on as a D&D. You could study up on fleshing out some things like the NPCs' names, the location names, magic items. You can really kind of look at that big bad evil guy you've got planned at the end and flesh that out and look at, like, how do I make him, is he hard enough for this group, is he not hard enough, those kind of things. So you can really work on making him that big bad evil guy. Another thing is handouts. Any handouts or props that you might want to give the group, you could prepare those. You could take the time to do that, and that takes time to put that all together.
So even if you're the king of inspiration and the king of improvisation, it still helps to prepare.
Yeah, definitely,
sure.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, the more prepared, things will go bad, but if you have these things all kind of fleshed out, these are things that you can control. There's things you can't control that players are going to do.
Which is the way we play.
I mean, exactly. So you cover the stuff you can. Also, puzzles and traps. Those are some things you can study. I know for me, I like to try to find some neat traps and stuff to come up with and keep a list. So that would be the number one thing. Another thing I would do as a DM is the atmosphere.
Oh, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, so thinking about how you want to, what kind of atmosphere do you want to make, and what makes atmosphere? Well, the minimum I would say is some kind of a soundtrack or some mood music to play. And there's places you can
ever
go
watched a movie with like the mute button? It's pretty boring.
I try not to.
It's pretty boring.
Yeah. And music really makes the thing. So like if you're having some horror creepy thing, I like to find some. You can find all kinds of soundtracks from different horror movies and things. But if you're looking for like some RPG kind of stuff, Sirenscape is a place you can go. Spotify has playlists actually for that. Yeah. And there's some YouTube playlists that you can look at and find some people put together atmosphere music. Yeah. Another thing about atmosphere is, let's say you wanted to do something kind of scary around Halloween time. You could do like smoke machines and lighting and stuff. That was one of my favorite things that you did one time, and had lighting and everything and the smoke machines. We had to kind of turn them down because we
couldn't see what we were doing.
Yeah, a little bit rough. But it was a cool idea that really set the mood for the game. Another thing I would say is there's the logistics of actually playing. Logistics are like where you're going to play, the time, get that all nailed down, who's going to provide the food and drinks. One of the things like in our game that I know, actually your wife, she provided meats and cheeses. And I don't think that was intentional, but a few times we ate meats and cheeses, and it was like, wow, this is perfect. We're like in a tavern, and we're eating meats and cheeses. This is the kind of thing that they would have in a tavern. So you could think that stuff out a little bit and kind of plan that a little bit. So there's some of those logistics you could work on, making sure everything's all set and everything, and finding that time to play.
And generally, it's not always the case, but the logistics generally seems to fall on the dungeon master more often than not. Maybe it's because you're the one that has the story, and everyone's just wanting to come and show up. But so setting up the time, where you're going to play, when you're going to play, what you're going to eat and stuff, it generally falls on the DM, unfortunately. You can spread out the food and drinks for sure.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, who's going to buy pizza or whatnot? Yeah, whatever beverages you may want to have at your table. And then I would say another thing is your entertainment. You're like, well, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and watch a great movie. I really haven't had time to watch it, but if you watch movies, you take that time to plan out what you're kind of choose a movie or a book or something that's actually going to be helpful.
So give me an example of that. So.
Well, for example, let's say I want to get the flavor of dwarves. I might watch Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
You know, obviously there's a lot of dwarves in that. And like, you know what?
And the Hobbit series.
Definitely, all those have great examples of, okay, I get the flavor of it, like how it's described. I know Dungeon Dudes just recently responded to one of our tweets, and they said that they sit there when they're watching a movie or watching TV or whatever. They have a pad next to them, and when they see something pretty cool that, oh, that's a good idea, they jot it down. Which, as DMs, you're always looking for ideas, and so even though you're reading a novel or watching a movie, in the back of your mind, you're like, you see something, oh, that'd be great to use in our campaign. So you could just one little tweak, one little adjustment, kind of make those videos and the things you do kind of help the actual prep. That's something you could do. Okay. And I would say the last thing I think is my favorite thing is to YouTube. We got to get on YouTube and look at
so
all the
YouTube
videos.
as a verb.
YouTube as a verb. We coined that tonight. You know, Google. People say Google that. Well, we're saying YouTube it.
Right.
YouTube it, and I would really function on this channel. I mean, you've heard of Dungeon Class. They have some really good videos. I'd watch. I'd start there, and I'm told that there's other video creators out there that have videos, I guess, about D&D. So
there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, there really are. So we'll have some actually in our channel featured list. You'll see some great ones to choose from. So Gonzo, that's the DM, all that stuff. What about the players?
Well, you would think the player doesn't have much to do but just show up, play, and then go home and wait till the next time he can play.
That's what I do.
And that's what some people do. But there actually is some things we thought of that players could do.
Okay.
One of them, and I wrote it down on my handy piece of paper here, but one of them is to, once you've kind of created your player, is to grab a WizKids figure, or any kind of figure that you can, and paint them. And the reason is, here's one that I painted of my bard, but you know better than anyone else at the table what you would like your player to look like, what maybe the color scheme of their armor and clothing is, maybe what their spells that they're shooting out look like to you. So it's a nice, relaxing, fun thing to do, even while you're watching a movie or something.
And where do you get these?
So these WizKid figures, you can get them at your gaming store. You can get them online or on Amazon. There's many other places. We haven't done a video on this yet, but we like these because they are already primed. Yeah, they're already primed, so all you have to do is paint them. And they're not that expensive. I think you can get this for under $5, and this is a Tabaxi Rogue here. So if you're playing a Tabaxi Rogue, you go to the game store, you go to Amazon or whatever, and you find the character you like, get it, and then you can sit and paint it, and you have your character for the terrain, when you're playing. So that's one thing you could do.
One thing I like about miniatures, I could see, some old guys sit around and tie flies when they're old.
Yeah,
I feel like this is something that you could do well into your old age days, painting figures.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm just saying that we're nearing.
Are you saying because I do this?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that you're old in any way, shape, or form. But I think this is a cool thing, and I'm not very good at it, and I'm enthralled by some of the videos I see of people actually doing this and doing it well. Pretty impressive that they do that.
This one was painted by my wife as well. So they come in all sizes. We have several up here. This dragon was painted by my daughter.
So you don't have to be old to paint these. Is that what you're saying?
No, you don't have to be old.
Oh, okay.
People like us. But anyway, that's one thing a player can do is kind of
cool hobby.
Another would be to work on the character itself as far as maybe fleshing out more of your backstory. Maybe when you first show up, you just have the bare bones of it.
Right.
And you can work with your dungeon master on that as you come up with an idea. Maybe the story has taken you to a point where you've got a great idea now to be able to tie your character into the story that's evolving. And you work that out with your DM off camera, so to speak. You can text them or call them or whatever your mode of communication is. That's a great thing to do. Also, if you'd like to work on a voice or maybe just a mannerism or something, a character trait that they may have that you would like to add to that character to make it more interesting.
That's a really good point and that's something that sometimes I think players don't really get or understand is that they're writing their own story too. We often think that the DM is writing the story. They prepare the story. You are part of writing that story that goes on, and that story is your character. And I like that a lot because the character should take an active part in what's going on in the game, and I think that's great. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, speaking of taking an active part, we would be remiss if we didn't ask you to like the video, subscribe to us if you haven't already, hit the bell for notifications, and then comment in this video. And we definitely want to hear some of your preparation techniques, some of the things that you guys do, in the comments below. Please let us know. We'll respond for sure, because we're learning every day as much as anyone else is, and so we appreciate that.
What else you got?
Okay, so the next thing I had written down was to create a players folders. DMs do so much in preparation. They hand out maps. They give you maybe an old scroll that has a code in there or something that you have to decipher. There's magic items or cards they may even give you, and it's nice to have it all in one place in a little folder. You can buy a cheap 30-cent folder and draw on it like I used to in middle school, or you can get nicely D&D folders even or whatever, and with some art on there and stuff. I know that's what we did, was 3-ring binders and slip cases. And
that reminds me of something that Allie did with her deck of many things.
That's right.
She took the time she actually made pictures of her deck. She created a deck of many things rather than just have it. Okay, it's a magic item. She made a visual.
I think she took a deck of cards. I don't remember. She took a deck of cards and then taped a piece of paper over to it and then drew that monster. It was brilliant. It was awesome.
Yeah, and that was a cool use of that downtime. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, because her character had that. Yeah. So create a folder and keep all your stuff in there. Your pens, paper, scrap paper, that kind of stuff. And then another thing that I personally did for my character, which was a bard, was I created a soundtrack for him. Now, I don't suggest 5 or 6 players walking up to the with portable speakers and saying, "Here's my character soundtrack," and everyone blasting their music at the same time. I
could picture a wrestling montage as they come out, their own entrance music.
Well, that's kind of how I envisioned because I envisioned my guy Sean Bon of Jovi as a rock star.
Right.
And when he played music, when he cast his Thunderstrike spell, I played AC/DC's Thunderstruck. Yeah. And the whole table would be thunder. Yeah. All the dice would fly everywhere, whatever. Awesome. But it was fun for me as my bard starts playing his lute, and then this music comes out and casts this spell of thunder, and force damage went out. So I created a little. I think I had Careless Whispers as his vicious mockery or whatever spell. I can't remember.
That might have been sexy time music, but
I don't know. Well, we won't go there. But anyway, have fun with it. But as a bard, that's what I did. I created a soundtrack for him and used it throughout the game. It wasn't consistently blasting at you guys, but it was when I used one of my spells or something.
Yeah, that was good.
I remember. I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, but I did create an Irish bard at one point, an Irish dwarf. And so all my music, I went to Spotify and found all these Irish ballads and stuff, and I would use those. And it was a lot of fun.
Is that the one where you're wearing a kilt?
Yeah, I wore a kilt while I played. But we won't get into that anyway.
No, we won't.
And then the last thing you could, or at least last thing that we wanted to talk about you could do as a player, is to YouTube again as a verb, to watch videos. You'll learn so much. There are so many good instructional videos on how to improve the way that you play and maybe improve the fun that you're having. How to get more joy out of the game just by knocking out some of the little things that you may not realize you're doing. You can watch how other people play. I know many people have come into the game from watching like Critical Role or somebody, groups like that playing. But you can just learn so much, and it's entertaining as it is anyway. And I would say you watch Dungeon Class, you'll be well on your way to
absolutely.
So, all right, Mark. I think we've given our 5, and I'm hoping that the audience gives us some more. And I think we're good, right? With that,
and with that,
class dismissed.